What's going on, everybody, and welcome on into episode 231 of the Garage Beers podcast, brought to you proudly here on the OBR streaming network. Get over and follow the OBR at theobr.com. Get over to the OBR socials. Right now, the OBR is in its heyday. We got two shows on Mondays. We got two shows on Tuesdays. We got shows on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we got the best Browns pre- and post-game shows before and after every Browns game. Your home for Cleveland Browns football is the OBR. Make sure you are tuned in to everything OBR. And also make sure you get over to our socials at The Garage Beers on all the socials, X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and just be a part of our family. Make sure you hit the follow button there as well. With you as always, I'm your host, Michael Keefe, and joining me in the garage tonight, first over on the east side of Cleveland, where things I think are much calmer than they are over here. Chad Meyer at Garage Beers. Chad, what's up, Chad?
Yeah, a little breezy, but the weather is fine over here, Mike. I know you're hauled up over there in your little masturbation station or whatever that is. You you got you got in your basement. No, but seriously, I hope everything, the weather turns out fine. But yeah, a lot calmer over here, and yeah, we're good. I don't even think the weather you have is going to make it over here.
No, it's so right now we're under a tornado warning. The sirens are all going off outside right now. As what's that? Joe, you're muted. Nope, still muted.
I was just going to say, you're in your basement.
I am, and I'm under the stairs. Like, I'm in the spot. The wife and kids are just in the other room. So luckily, the interview we have tonight on Garage Beers is pre-recorded, so I'll be able to go say hi to them here in a few minutes. But if you are in the zone right now tonight where this is all going on, be careful. Get in the basement or wherever you need to get, and stay safe. But we're doing okay. It looks like this thing's going to shoot out over the lake, and so I don't think you have to worry about it, Chad. Actually, doesn't even look like they're worried about it down at Progressive Field, where the Guardians are just moments away from wrapping up a 2 seed in the playoffs, and we're going to get there.
Let's go.
Back this week down in Nashville.
That was the goal.
Back this week in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Joey Whalen at Garage Beers. Joe, what up, Joe?
What up, boys? I'm back.
Yo, Lou.
That's the way to do it.
Yo, Lou.
I'm back. I've been sick as hell the past couple weeks, so I'm happy to be here.
I am effing back.
I'm effing back.
Yeah. Well, good. We're glad to have you back. Normally, this kind of weather is reserved for you down there in Nashville.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting like sympathy, anxiety, like hearing about this going over like our house.
It is like we are in like we're just to the side of it, but they put the marker on your parents' house, like smack on it. So
cool.
But at this, I think it expires at like 9:15 here. So I think we're all right.
But yeah,
it's a crazy night, crazy weather, and we got a great show. Coming up. I'm very excited for this show. A little bit later, we're going to do something fun in honor of the Guardians. I think we're going to put together our top Cleveland Guardians starting lineup of all time. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We will get to our Guardians chat. We will talk about our beloved or hated or whatever the hell you want to call them at this point, Cleveland Browns. Because
you're right. Everyone and no one is right about them. All right? Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. Everyone and no one is right about them.
Nobody's on the point, though. We're going to be on the point.
We're going to figure it out. We'll talk through it. We got feelings we got to get through with this stupid team, but we'll get through those feelings. We got a lot of fun stuff going on. So glad you're aboard. Glad you're hanging out, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or wherever you're watching. Just do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, send it around to all your friends. We're going to have a great time here tonight. Before we get into our special guest, we got a great special guest just in the baseball world. Just one of the most well-known former general managers, currently on MLB Network, just a great baseball mind. I had the opportunity yesterday to sit down and talk with Steve Phillips about the Cleveland Guardians and really the MLB season in general. We're going to play that interview for you in just a minute. But before we get to that, boys, it's not Garage Beers without Garage Beers. So let's get into our Garage Beers of the Week. And this week, our Garage Beers of the Week, sponsored by the Cleveland Tint Company. Again, remember, born and raised right in Cleveland, Ohio, the Cleveland Tint Company is the #1 place in Cleveland for your commercial, residential, or automotive window tinting needs. Again, we're all trying to save money here. It's expensive to live right now. We're trying to save money in those electric bills. Winter rolls around. You're trying to save money in heating bills. You're trying to save money in your car. You're trying to save money everywhere you can. And Cleveland Tint Company can help you with that. When it's warm outside and the sun's beating in those windows, you get that nice little window tint put on. Boom, electric bill through the floor. It goes down. So make sure the Cleveland Tint Company is on your list of places to call for your home, your business. It brings you the best product, the best service you can find in all of Northeast Ohio. And nobody does car window tinting better. They are the company in Cleveland with the only lifetime warranty in Cleveland. My buddy Paulie and the Cleveland Tint Company 100% stands behind their work. So give them a call today, 440-655-3213, or go to clevelandtint.com for more information. And now it's time to get on to our Garage Beers of the Week. And Chad, you made a comment that you were real excited about your beer, so kick it off, dude. You can start us off.
Well, boys, this past Sunday, it was the official first day of fall. So it is perfectly acceptable now to move on to some fall beers. And boy, I got a good one tonight, guys. From the 2024 Grand National Champion at the Great American Beer Festival, Third Eye Brewing Company, a brewing company down there in Hamilton, Ohio. 2024 Grand National Champion. I have the 2023 gold medal winner, Gord Darn It Pumpkin Stout.
Gord darn it.
Gord darn it.
Yeah, look at that guy. Listen to this, fellas. Listen to this. Mike, you're going to love this. This is Gene Creamin stuff for you. This delicious milk stout with notes of molasses, toffee, coffee, and chocolate won a gold medal at the 2023 Great American Beer Festival. We added a variety of fall spices, including cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, and a bit of creamy lactose to take our epic award-winning milk stout to the next level.
Damn.
Look how dark that
I didn't
thing
know
is.
whether you were reading off the ingredients of that beer or whether you were talking about strippers at the local strip club right there.
Yeah, creamy lactose. That's my old stripper name. There we go.
Nutmeg isn't great, but
no. Creamy lactose really gets the dollars. Yeah, there it is, boys. It is amazing. It is awesome. I suggest if you've ever come across it, try it, get it. It's amazing.
Welcome on up to the main stage. Nutmeg.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
All right, Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, boys, I'm off the sauce for a few weeks, unfortunately. I had some almond milk I was going to bring on, but I thought that'd be kind of weird. So I just got some water today, some high quality H2O.
Yeah, Joe's been going through it a little bit. So we do always love to have a couple beers on the show. I know my buddy Drew in Brick City was on the doghouse before. He was getting lubed up with some Busch Heavies.
Ooh.
And I don't know if he's drinking anything now. I haven't seen him in the comments yet, but we also support.
I appreciate that. I might spice it up next week. I might put a little lemon in it, so stay tuned.
We support taking care of your body.
Do not threaten us with a good time. All right?
Damn right. All right, well, that's going to bring it around to me. And I don't even know where I keep buying this, to be honest. Maybe Costco? I don't know where I keep buying this. But
Costco beer.
Out there in Seattle, man, we went to this brewery. Joe, before we went to a Mariners game back in May or June or whenever the hell it was. But Elysian.
Yeah.
Solid brewery. Good place out in Seattle. It was a good time. We had some fun hangs there.
Yeah.
But
although no flights on game day. No flights on game day.
We learned that. They got like a pumpkin pack, like a 12-pack of just pumpkin beers. You can buy it all over Cleveland. I've seen it a whole bunch of places. It's really good. So I just have their normal pumpkin beer. This is the Night Owl. And Elysian's a good brewery. They always make good beer. It looks like your normal everyday run-of-the-mill pumpkin beer, which is just what you're looking for. Where's the Garage Beers logo? There it is. And that's what we're drinking tonight. So shout out there. If you're having a drink, put it in the comments. We'll throw it up there on the screen. Like Josh Montgomery here. He's into the fall beers. Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Shout out to you, Josh. But boys, cheers to you guys. Cheers to everybody watching. If you're listening later, remember, if you miss us on the live stream, you can always watch us on YouTube or Twitch later, or you can get over to Apple or Spotify or wherever you catch your podcast, and you can catch us over there as well. Cheers to all of you that are joining us tonight. Now it's time to get in to episode 231 of the Garage Beers podcast. And I probably will just introduce him on the next segment here, but it's time to throw it over to our special guest again from the MLB Network, former GM of the New York Mets, a star of Moneyball, even though it was just him on the other line. And Brad Pitt was pretending to call him, but really excited to talk to him. And I think you guys are going to really love this interview because it is official, by the way, boys. The Cleveland Guardians officially won tonight. They are the number 2 seed. The Yankees, I don't know what they've done, but they're going to get the 1 seed. The Cleveland Guardians are going to get the number 2 seed in the AL playoffs. Wow. They're going to get a bye in the wild card. They're going to skip right to the divisional round, and that is official. So to celebrate that, I'm going to send it over to this interview I did with Steve Phillips. Remember, this was done last night, so we didn't know that this had happened yet. But then, boys, let's celebrate after this interview. Here it is. Here's Steve Phillips. All right, as you can see, I'm back again. A guest we had back in February as we were getting going with baseball season. And man, oh man, have we had a baseball season. We are now officially in the last week of the baseball season, and I'm very excited to have him back on. You know him if you know baseball. He's currently with MLB Network doing a little bit of everything, really. But Steve Phillips coming back into the garage to talk baseball with us. Steve, welcome back to the Garage Beers podcast.
I'm happy to be here, man. Good to do it with you again. Been a pretty good season, hasn't it?
I got to tell you, I went back this afternoon and I listened. You came on with us in February, and we were just getting kicking. And man, I went back and listened to that episode, and there's some things I'm going to bring up during our conversation here, but it's so apparent that we had no idea what was coming.
No idea.
We had no idea.
Yeah.
It's been a great season overall. I think, as a lot of us probably predicted, Steve, here in Cleveland, we are our magic number is 2 to clinch that number 2 seed in the American League. And I think we all predicted that it was going to be the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Yankees, and the Cleveland Guardians at the end of this whole thing.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that listen, the Guardians story is one of the best stories of the year. It really is. I mean, it's just amazing. From a rookie manager to a team that we thought, oh, they're going to be built around their pitching, and Bieber will lead the way, and Tristan McKenzie will be back in there. And can they score enough runs to support the pitching and everything else? I mean, it really has been an amazing story. And you start thinking about a bullpen where you got 4 guys that have 70 appearances. I looked the other day, and there were like 10 pitchers in baseball with 70 appearances. 4 of them are Guardians. But they're holding up right now. They all seem to be doing okay. The fact that they held off Kansas City when Kansas City pulled into a tie with them, that immediately the Guardians responded and then separated again. It's been an absolutely phenomenal story.
Well, I'll go back to that first interview that we did back in February, because you asked us when you were on the show, as we were just wrapping, you said, knowing what we know about the Guardians. And a lot of what we talked about was just the unknown about the Guardians. Knowing what we know about the Guardians, you set the over-under for the win-loss over-under for the Guardians at 78.5 games. And my co-host, Chad, who's not with us today, but he said that's a push. And then you kind of bragged that you picked the right number, which sounded right. I took the under. Steve, we were all wrong. We were all just
wrong.
Flat wrong.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it is, it's why we play the games.
Yeah.
And it's really proof that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about a team. It really matters what they think about themselves. And over the season, I think one of the things where Stephen Vogt has really impacted this team is he's gotten them to believe in themselves, that they are whoever they think they are. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And go back to a couple years ago where Terry Francona's there, youngest team in baseball. They make the playoffs. They surprised us then too. But I think most everybody in this division thought, well, the Tigers are kind of a sexy team to pick. Minnesota, with all of the offensive production they have. And sure, their pitching wasn't quite the same, but they still felt like a team to beat. And so, yeah, it's really just been a remarkable season. And one that, like, I don't think anybody would have thought that that you're looking at a team fighting for potentially the best record in the American League. That is crazy what they've done. And there have been a lot of stories like that this year. Milwaukee's been a story like that. The Royals, their run, although they're fading a little bit right now. And teams that have just really so far exceeded expectations. And it's a real tribute to the managers of those teams, the rookie managers coming in, the Mets and what they've done this year too. Crazy stuff. And so, yeah, the Guardians are certainly one of the best stories.
Hey, before we dive into the Guardians a little bit, I think one of the best, honestly, I think this has been one of the most fun baseball seasons, and maybe because of what we've got going on in Cleveland, because last year was almost unwatchable. But this year it's been just such a fun season around Major League Baseball. And I think a big part of that, you're attracted to stars, right? And you're attracted to star power. And you had these big contract signings of the offseason. You had trades and moves. And it felt like all the stars for all the teams just shined bright. It like, you obviously you and your connection with the Mets. I got to tell you, I love seeing Francisco Lindor finally play to that expectation. He's an MVP. Well, no, he's not really an MVP candidate in the National League, but man, if there wasn't a dude going for 50 and 50, he would be an MVP candidate out there in the National League. Obviously, Ohtani and his contract, and then what he did, just unbelievable things that nobody's ever done before. This dude is doing. You've got Juan Soto in New York living up to the hype and living up to the expectation, just being spectacular. You just all around baseball, you had kind of the stars, and even here in Cleveland, Jose Ramirez, he's got 3 home runs away from a 40-40 season, and now obviously it's like the quietest one of all time because of what's happened with Ohtani, but it's been so fun to watch all throughout the league.
Oh, it certainly has. I mean, you're the Ohtani story. And that lineup of Ohtani, Betts, and Freddie Freeman, and the top 3 there, even the injuries for the Dodgers have made them an interesting team, and the Padres and the moves at the deadline and what it meant for them, and how much better they are this year after having lost the Cy Young Award winner last year, Blake Snell, and trading away Juan Soto. They're a better team this year, again, with a first-year manager for them. Mike Schultz obviously had some experience. Excuse me, but a tremendous story. Then Aaron Judge, I mean, early on, we thought he was on pace for 63, 64 homers. He might break his own record. And so, who was having the better year, Ohtani or Judge? And what are they doing? And I agree with you that the Orioles-Yankees race was a good race in the East. Yeah. The White Sox, honestly, as bad as they are, it's made it another big storyline for this year. And so I agree with you that the Tigers coming out of nowhere, the Astros being down 10 games and erasing a 10-game deficit in 26 games later. It's been such a streaky year, but the storylines just never seem to go away.
Well, and I'm interested in your take on this just around the league. I look around. First of all, you brought up the White Sox, and I have to give a special shout out. 1, to Grady Sizemore, because he's a fan favorite here in Cleveland. And 2, whoever runs the White Sox social media, like their Twitter page, is just spectacular. They deserve a raise because they're starting to just say now, final, go online and look for yourself, right? Like that's what it'll
we're
say
done.
on the Twitter page.
We're checking out.
But you're so used to seeing maybe 1 or 2 teams that have 100+ wins and have really kind of run away. And you talk about the Guardians vying for a number 1 seed, and I think the Yankees can just with their next win lock that up. But you're looking at a lot of teams. I don't know that we're going to get any that break the 100-win barrier this season. And I wonder, do you think that's more of a product, or is that a product of maybe that balanced schedule that you're not maybe beating up on the same teams over and over again? Or, it just seems like we don't have those teams that have run away per se, as we've seen in past years.
Yeah, I think that part of it is the White Sox have fed everybody. Right. So, I mean, they've lost enough for everybody else to be able to do it. And so, they've gotten teams hot. They've gotten teams confident. But I do think there's some parity around the game. I do. I think that the part of the collective bargaining agreement, which has sort of adjusted things a little bit. And I think the fact that we had 2 wildcard teams last year in the World Series made teams think, and owners think, it's not the worst thing to get a fight for a wild card spot, because once you're in the tournament, you've got a chance to make a run. It's not the best team. It's just the team playing the best that makes it to the World Series. And so I think that has driven teams to spend a little bit more and to be a little more competitive just to get that 3rd wild card spot, just to be able to get in to it, to make a push for it. And so, plus the idea of completely rebuilding right now, is tough because, for instance, the White Sox have the worst record this year. In fact, they're going to have the worst record in the history of baseball. And they're not going to get a top 10 draft pick next year because of the new collective bargaining agreement and how they're using a lottery system. And if you've been in it for 3 straight years in the top 10, then you can't be in it. And so the reality is, like, a team of the White Sox, they're 3 years away from being 3 years away from competing. And so, I think that teams don't want to completely take it down to the studs anymore. And the other thing is, I think the White Sox need to understand this. To truly develop players at the major league level, you've got to teach them how to win. And so when you get a chance to win a game, you've got to close those games out. They've got the worst record after having a lead after 6 innings, 7 innings, and 8 innings. Like, they just have had leads and they give them away because the bullpen wasn't good enough. At least invest in that and give yourself a chance to win when you have a chance to actually finally get a victory at some point.
Well, let's bring it back here to Cleveland. And I think a thing that's you brought up Stephen Vogt there for a second. We talked a lot about Stephen Vogt the last time you were on, but as a guy that was a general manager, as a guy that's had to evaluate candidates for managerial positions, and I do think in all of the major sports, potentially the baseball manager is maybe the least understood as far as, you think about football and you think about a coach that comes up with a playbook and you think about basketball and you got the coach that comes up with plays out on the field and all that. And in baseball, it's so much in-game strategy and putting together lineups and all that. But I think people maybe don't have as much insight as to what a baseball manager does as to any of the other sports. So as a guy that's had to go through and hire managers and go through that process, think about what the Guardians saw in Stephen Vogt, a guy that was playing baseball 2 years ago. A guy that was never a head coach, a manager. He was a bullpen coach 1 year, and then they bring him in and the job that he did.
Who knew, right? I mean, who knew? That's all you need. What it really does prove, though, is like the in-game strategy, you kind of know when a pitcher's done and when you need to bring in the next guy. Now, they've sort of had different tactics the way they've gone about it. And really, if you had to use, and look, they did it out of necessity, managing the game the way they have. And he's done a good job. When managers seem like they can really manage a bullpen, generally it means they've got good relievers, right? And when a manager looks like he keeps bringing in the wrong guy, it's not because he's bringing in the wrong guy. It's not dumb. It's just he doesn't have good relievers to be able to bring in. And so, he has used the very good relievers that he has been given from the front office and brought in, and he's done it very well. But it really is about people. It's about managing the people. It's about, and Terry Francona was great at that. Francona was so good at connecting with people. Like going in to talk to him. Like I interviewed him for the manager's job way back in the day after he got let go in Philadelphia. I loved him, but I didn't think I could bring the failed manager of the Phillies in to manage the Mets, even though I loved my time interviewing him and then getting to know him after that. He's so easy to talk to. And Stephen Vogt is a guy that was a man's man. He was always everybody's favorite teammate. He was a great guy on every team that he was on. And what really hit me and really told the whole story is probably last week when he was crying, talking about they had to come back another walk-off win, and he cried, right? And people are like, oh, he's crying. No, like you understand what that means about the love and the connection that he has with his team and that he is fully invested in them, and they have changed him as a manager too. Like it was so telling to me, the impact of that. These guys play hard for him. They trust him, and he's gotten the most out of them. He's been able to mix and match players when they need to. He's touched the right guys on that team. And so, and I see that with Carlos Mendoza in New York with the Mets. He's done a tremendous job. They were horrible by the end of May. They got the best record since May 30th now. Mike Schilt going into a team last year where Bob Melvin, who's a very respected manager, he came across like he didn't like the team. Like he was angry at what was going on. Mike Schilt just keeps professing love for his guys. They're great. And he kept getting more and more out of them. And so I do think that managers can really help. You've got to have the talent to win, but they can really keep that all together and get the most out of it. In some ways they can hurt. But in many ways they're sort of there, and it's the roster that carries the way. But one of the greatest things I've ever been able to do was at broadcasting games being able to go in, and you always get access to the manager of each team before the games. And those conversations were just amazing, because I'd walk out of there thinking, man, everybody's different. I went into Charlie Manuel, and I love Charlie Manuel, but I came out of there thinking, how did he survive the interview? You know what I mean? Like, he's such a he's just such a genuine okie dokie guy, but it's not really. But he's like, he was perfect for the teams that he managed.
Yeah.
And Jim Leland, I would go in and talk to him, and he would speak in Lelandisms. Like, he'd have these sort of statements that he was making. But then when I would go talk to his players, they were saying the same statements he just said to us in an office. And what an impact when they speak your language in the clubhouse, right? Joe Torre, quiet, unassuming, but when he talked, like, you'd lean in wanting to hear it.
Yep.
And he knew that he could let the players play, but when he did have something to say, they'd all listen to it. Bobby Cox would scream and yell at umpires, right? The most ejections ever. But to his players, he was a loving grandfather. Like, he was their biggest cheerleader. Yeah. And they would say, he makes us, when we're 0 for 15, he makes us feel great. And yet he's the guy we saw screaming. And he was screaming in August in a game against the Pirates on a 3-2 pitch in the 7th inning on a game where they have an 8-2 lead. And you're thinking, like, why is he getting worked up? It's because he was telling his team that this pitch in this inning, in this game, is the most important pitch of the season. And he kept in churning. And that's why they would never fall back when they had a lead. And so, there's so many different styles. And the best manager is somebody who's a different manager for every player, right? You got to know your guys and what they need from you. Some need the kick in the seat of the pants. Some need the hug. You got to find out how, and you got to know them in order to be that guy for them.
Well, we'll see what happens. I would imagine Stephen Vogt here in Cleveland's going to get himself his fair share of votes for Manager of the Year.
Oh, absolutely. If he doesn't win it, it's travesty.
But so let's kind of talk about this team and how this season has gone. And you talked about it, and I really think it's this linchpin moment, and it may be, depending on how far this team can go. And I think a lot of people are starting to believe that this team can go as far as anybody. It may be that linchpin moment that we all look back on, and you brought it up. It was that 4-game series against the Royals. It was a doubleheader, which I think the Guardians might have been 0 for everything in doubleheaders this year. They were terrible at doubleheaders. And then they lose the 3rd game of that 4-game series, and all of a sudden the Royals are tied. Right. And the Guardians had led. I mean, it was a wire-to-wire first-place season for the Cleveland Guardians, and all of a sudden, here's the Kansas City Royals on a tear that have tied the season, and the Guardians win that next game. And I remember seeing, I don't remember who it was on Twitter, just a local person saying that was the season-saving win right there. And it was so right, because they win that game, and 1 week later, they had like a 7-game cushion. 1 week later, they went on a run. The Royals went on a little bit of a losing streak, and here's this cushion for the Guardians, and the Guardians never relinquished it. Sports in general can be so reliant upon momentum and how you're playing at the right time. It just feels like something connected with this group of guys when the Royals tied them up, and it sent them on a tear. And they've ridden that wave to, again, what we expect this week is locking up the number 2 seed in the American League.
Yeah, I think it also impacted the Royals as well, that the Royals got to that point, and it was like, oh, we did it. Like they had accomplished something when really they hadn't accomplished anything at all. Right. And so they got there, and then they went on the losing streak while the Guardians completely flipped the script for both of them. And I'm with you. I think that you find out far more about people when you're dealing with adversity. And you really found out about this Guardians team. They dealt with adversity. They were on the brink of collapse, and they fought it off. And when that snowball starts rolling down the mountain and it turns into an avalanche, it is so hard to get underneath it and stop it and push it back up the mountain. They did that. That is a Herculean effort to turn that around. And that's guys pulling together. That's not finger pointing. It's not, oh, what's going on with the offense? We're not scoring now. The pitchers aren't doing that. And, the whole notion when that Royal Series was the bullpen's getting burned out. The bullpen is they're running out of gas right now. And man, that they came back on that 4th game. They get the win. That felt like the bullpen got fortified. They go out there and score some runs. They get some advantage. Then they got some margin for error. And and I tell you, It's a great story, and that you're right, 100%. I think that fourth game of that series when they had lost the first three, it saved the season.
Well, you just brought up the bullpen. I got to ask your opinion on this, Steve. I got to ask your opinion. We talked actually in February. We talked a lot about Emmanuel Clase, and you actually asked us what our thoughts were on the fact that there were rumors that the Guardians might be trading Emmanuel Clase in the offseason. Well, glad they didn't, because Emmanuel Clase is having a historically great season as the closer. He has been unhittable as the closer for the Cleveland Guardians, to the point where I know Scooble in Detroit is the betting favorite to win the Cy Young, but the number 2 guy on the betting list is Emmanuel Clase, and it feels like we might have the best chance since Eric Gagne did it to see a closer win a Cy Young. He has been the most dominant. When you look at his numbers, it is unbelievable what Emmanuel Clase has done this year.
It really is. And there is something in the game that sometimes the best trades you make are the ones you don't make, right? And because the thought was his strikeout numbers fell last year. Stuff wasn't quite the same. Maybe you should get out of that, move him now while the value's still there, controllability, and that he was at peak value. And before somebody figures out, no, I think he had like 41 saves last year. Still had a great save season, just didn't get the strikeout numbers. But boy, I mean, that's the other part of it, is that when you lose games in the ninth inning, they're always more than just one loss, right? They take a pound of flesh out of you.
Yes.
And they haven't lost those games with Clase. They always seem to find a way. And if you're the opposing manager, especially with this bullpen, you better get a lead before the seventh inning or you're in trouble. And I think the other real thing that really indicates the quality and the depth of the bullpen is the come from behind wins, right? They've got the most come from behind wins in Major League Baseball. And people always think, well, if you have a good bullpen, it means you save a lot of games. But when you have a good bullpen, it also allows you to hold the deficit, to put up zeros, to allow your offense to come back and rally late in the game. And that's the other part of what this great bullpen has done for them this year, is that if they have fallen behind early, they just shut it down and they wait for guys to start to peck away at it. Get a run here, run there. Next thing you know, they've taken a lead, and then Clase comes in and slams the door. And so it's a great formula. It's one that you hope everybody can maintain their strength through the end and they don't run out of gas, because it has been they're such a fun team to watch. They make plays defensively. They come up with clutch hits. They run the bases. They advance runners. They get productive outs. They do little things to win, and they've got more power this year than what we've seen in the past as well.
Well, just bringing up Clase one more time, 1 or 2 more saves, and Emmanuel Clase is going to have a better WAR than any closer than Mariano Rivera ever had, except for that 1 year where he wasn't a closer in 1996 and he was a reliever when he was the best reliever in baseball that year for the Yankees. But a better WAR than Troy Percival and K-Rod, and it is an all-time great season that we are seeing out of Clase. And I don't know. I think I got a little hope. I got a little hope in me that they give him the award.
I think Scuba's leading in wins, leading in strikeouts, leading in ERA for starters. I think he's going to have the triple crown for starters. So I think that, but I believe Clase will be a unanimous second place in the Cy Young. I think that it'll be a unanimous Scooble, and I think Clase will be right there second. He'll win the reliever of the year award for sure. There's no question about that.
Speaking of the bullpen, just in general, Steve, we're talking about getting this number 2 seed. And again, all it's going to take is 2 more wins or a win and an Astros loss or whatever. But is there a more, the more I think about this, the more I think it may be the most important for the Guardians of all teams going into the playoffs to get that wild card bye, because they are so dependent on that bullpen. And again, the starting pitching, when you think about what they lost in starting pitching, Shane Bieber came out looking like Cy Young Shane Bieber his first 2 starts, and then he's out for the season. Just devastating for him. Tristan McKenzie never found it. Carlos Carrasco never found it. And they went and just found guys in that starting lineup who have just come around and just been clutch, really, in the lineup. But that bullpen is going to be absolutely enormous for them in the postseason to get those guys rest going into the playoffs. How important is that?
Yeah, so it's so interesting, right? Because teams that have had the rest have not fared all that well. It's why you had 2 wild card teams in it last year. My belief is that if I'm looking at having a bye, I am going to grind out all 162 games right until the end. I'm not going to think, we clinched, so let's back guys off right now.
Okay.
I think when you take your foot off the pedal, I think that guys, especially relievers, relievers are so funny. They're such a fickle group that they're mad that they're overused or they're mad that they're underused. They never are happy that they're being used just right. It's always and they don't like a lot of time off because they feel like they stiffen up. The ball's not coming out of my hand the same way. I've sort of lost and left something behind. So if it's me, I'm grinding it out to the end. I'll rest in the off season. I don't want a lot of rest right now because I think that one of the things we've seen is teams that sort of coast into the end of the year, take the break, come back out of that, have been rusty, and they don't have that same edge. And so if it's me, I'm grinding it for 162. Then we get a few days. We're still going to throw a little bit. We're still going to do some of that. We're going to get right back into it again because the momentum is so important, and maintaining that consistency and the workload is important for relievers as well.
On the other side of the baseball, Steve, you have this offense that when we talked in February, it was just question mark after question mark after question mark. And like you said, it was at the time you called it a singles offense, and that's what it was. That's what it's been, was this singles offense. You need 4 hits in an inning to generate a crooked number, and that's just difficult to do. Well, we spoke with one of the radio voices of the Guardians, Jim Rosenhaus, right before the season, the week before the season, and he talked about this new approach that they were taking with the hitters, that they were willing to accept more strikeouts. They were willing to accept a higher swing and miss rate for bigger swings and bigger production and bigger pop in the lineup. Well, they got it. You've got 2 guys over 30 homers and 100 RBIs. Jose Ramirez, again, 37 homers. So we're all pulling for that 40-40 season. But Josh Naylor has been spectacular this year, even though he's had his ups and downs. You finish with 30 and 100. You've had a great year. And then you've just seen this production in bigger hits from guys like Steven Kwan, who's more of a singles guy, but man, he hit a good amount of doubles. Andres Jimenez has bounced back from a tough offensive season. And then what I think has been great about the Guardians, Steve, is that then they've just been able to rely on 1 or 2 other guys every game to step up. Maybe it's Bo Naylor and 13 homers, or maybe it's David Fry with the torrid start to the season that he had. It's always just been 1 or 2 other guys that has stepped up and put them in a position to win every night. They just have found their recipe for success, but it's not just singles. They have found a little bit more of the power, and that bodes well for them going into the postseason.
Yeah, right. Home runs are big in postseason, right? Because it's really hard when you're facing the best pitchers in the game to lump 3 singles together, 4 singles together to put up a crooked number. So you've got to try to every once in a while hit one out. You've got to score and take advantage of every opportunity with a guy in scoring position. But with the speed they have, they can put themselves in scoring position a little bit more maybe than some other teams do. But I'm with you. I think that it's been Ramirez and Naylor on a consistent basis. And then Kwan was red hot when the season started. Like, he was unbelievable. But at that time, other guys were struggling a little bit. Then when Kwan slowed down a little bit, then David Fry starts picking it up some. And then, then Jimenez starts getting it going. Every once in a while, you're right, Bo Naylor would run into one. And they've had really good timing with what, other guys have produced with it as well. And so, timing's always hard to really maintain. But when you've got the 2 horses in the middle of the lineup who just put quality at bat after quality at bat, and then that rubs off on everybody, they're a team where it feels like they keep the line moving because they may be swing and miss a little bit more, but they do make contact to a pretty good degree too. And that advances runners, productive outs where you're going to keep guys moving, and it feels like there's some action always taking place. Those teams that swing and miss, those strikeouts just stop rallies. They just end right there. And so, and look, what we do know is this: it's going to be who's hot going into October, who can get that momentum going and that mojo going, feeling good about themselves, like what we saw with Arizona and Texas last year.
No, it's and listen, I said that, but this is a team that jumped from by far and away the lowest home runs in baseball last year to a middle tier home run hitting team in Major League Baseball.
Right.
And they kept the strikeouts. They're still at or near the bottom of the league in strikeouts. So it's just been an awesome turnaround from a hitting perspective. And it's just been guys, even guys like Brian Rocchio, who really can't hit very well at all, But when that guy comes up in a clutch at bat late in the game, he usually gets a hit. It's unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, it's uncanny. It really is uncanny. And they have, and the thing is, the moment doesn't feel too big for any of them.
None.
They feel like they're able to kind of control themselves and keep themselves calm and cool. I think Jose Ramirez has a lot of, and even Josh Naylor. Josh always just seems like he's himself in there, calm and relaxed and going in and quality at bat after quality at bat. And they have fun. I mean, that's the other thing. These guys like each other and they have fun playing the game.
All right, my last question about the Guardians as we go in, because again, you got to find that one. I feel like they got to find that one other guy, and I think Quan will be good. He'll be ready to go for the postseason, and Jimenez, keep him going the right way. But you've dealt with, over your time of both watching baseball and being a part of the game and being a general manager, I think there's this guy that they've got that I think can make a huge impact on them in the postseason if they can get him going the right way. And his name's John Kenzie Noel. He's a guy that took the world by storm when he started his first at bat in Baltimore. He crushes like a 450-foot homer. And he's a guy that feels like he can change the momentum of a baseball game at any given time. I just feel like he's the guy that if they can get him going, man, I think he can help carry them to the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to get hot, right? But plus, I love him. Like, I love watching him play. Like he's just like a big teddy bear, but he's big and he can do some damage. And I think that everybody sort of watches. He is the showstopper in many regards. Like, because of his presence in the batter's box, you do think that every time he swings, he's got a chance to do some damage. So I'm with you. If he could heat up, and then he cleans up what's left behind from Naylor and Jose Ramirez, that guy who's just there that whatever's left on the base, let me drive one into the right center field gap. Let me hit one off the left field wall, or in his case, maybe through the left field wall. To be able to score a couple extra runs. Those tack-on runs can be so critical in the postseason.
Yeah, well, listen, we're there, and it looks like the Cleveland Guardians are going to have a little home field advantage, at least through the divisional round, and we'll see what happens throughout the playoffs. But, man, just your final thoughts on the Guardians and what you think their chances are, as you know the rest of the teams. And there's a lot of good teams going into the postseason, but that's what you got to do to win a World Series. You've got to beat a lot of good teams to get there. How do you think their chances stack up?
Yeah, you do. And look, I think that they have, in my opinion, in the American League, it's wide open. The Yankees have flaws. They're not a perfect roster. The length of their lineup isn't great. I don't love their starting pitching. I mean, if Nestor Cortez is in there, he's not a swing and miss kind of guy that I think the ball can be put in play. They've got some bullpen questions late in the game. The Orioles starting pitching and bullpen both have some question marks when you think about it. And so, I look at, if it's Kansas City, they don't scare me at all. And in Houston, I think is getting it together. Houston starting pitching is good. Now, Alvarez got a little bit of a sore knee, but I do think Houston's going to be a tough matchup for anybody. But they can be beaten, and so they're not perfect. Hader has given up, I think, like 13 home runs this year late in the game, and so they have been giving up a lot of home runs out of their bullpen, and so they've got some question marks too. So I think it's wide open in the American League. So why not the Guardians is the way I look at it.
Well, I love it. I hope you're right. I hope why not the Guardians indeed, because we've been so close so many times. But it's been since 1948 since that banner's been hung here in Cleveland. And back in the postseason, as you said, once you're in that tournament, it's anybody's game. So, hey, Steve, this has been really fun hanging out. It's been really fun catching up and talking a little bit of Guardians baseball and getting your perspective on what's going on here in Cleveland. And one thing I do know, that stadium at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario here in Cleveland is rocking when it comes to postseason baseball, and it will be again. I hope you're able to enjoy it, and then I hope you're able to take a vacation at some point.
All right, yeah, I appreciate it. But you know what? It beats working for a living. I'll tell you that. It really does.
All right, Steve, I appreciate you coming on with us, and make sure you check out Steve on MLB Network. Check out Steve on Twitter, and I really appreciate you being a friend of the show and coming on with us to talk baseball again.
Yeah, you got it. My pleasure. Anytime.
How about Steve Phillips, again, former general manager of the New York Mets, and currently you can catch him in the mornings on MLB Network Radio. You can catch him on MLB Network. Go follow him on Twitter at Steve Phillips GM. Just a really nice guy though, and you can tell he likes the Guardians. He likes watching the Guardians. Chad, you just frozen there, or are you going to say something?
Number 2 seed. Number 2 seed. Number 2 seed. Number 2 seed. Woo!
Let's go.
Great
I
interview.
do think I thought that was interesting. Let's talk about this, guys, because again, I recorded that interview. Yesterday with Steve. So the magic number for the number 2 seed when we talked was 1. So you knew it was coming. I think he hit the nail on the head for the team I'm probably most nervous about in the postseason. But you knew that the Guardians were going to at least win one more game. The Astros weren't going to win out. And so you knew this was coming. All the Yankees have to do is win. In order for the Guardians to get the number 1 seed, they would have to win out and the Yankees would have to lose out. That's not going to happen. But you know what? What an impressive feat by the Cleveland Guardians, because not just the number 2 seed because they're a division champion, but there's no, I think sometimes you see Baltimore has a better record than them though, but they're behind the Yankee. No, the Guardians have been, as we all predicted before the season, like I said to Steve, it's the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Guardians, the top 4 teams in baseball all season long. And just an unbelievable feat. An unbelievable feat. They put the cherry on top of what was just a phenomenal regular season. And what a way to kick off your managerial debut for Stephen Vogt, than to take this team and make them believe and get them to the point that they're at. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I enjoyed his take on, obviously he has a lot of experience, direct experience with Major League Baseball managers. And yeah, there's in-game strategy, like who to put it in what time, setting your lineups, who to pinch hit, all that good stuff. But to talk about the relational aspect, I thought that was really insightful to hear from him, and really interesting. And going back to Stephen Vogt's interview a couple of days ago about the team and how he was tearing up about it, he's bought in. He has the guys bought in. I think that this team has a ton of heart, and it's just incredible what they've done in this season.
First, did you change your shirt, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Oh, all right.
I usually try to change my shirt between the doghouse and this, but then we had tornado warnings, so I wasn't even allowed to go upstairs. But the tornado warning ended 1 minute ago. But I did it anyways. I went upstairs and I didn't have a Gardo shirt on. I had a Brown shirt on. And listen, we're going to talk about the Browns. But right now we're celebrating Guardians. So I had to get a Guardian shirt on. Get a Gardo shirt.
Well,
yes. Yeah. Anytime we can get somebody on the show that has been around a game as much as Steve Phillips has, and to get the insight like that is it's just awesome. It's an awesome conversation to hear. Yeah, it's. I completely agree with him.
No.
Whoa,
no,
whoa. I am too close. I am too close to that screen. Jesus Christ! Oh God, I just blew my mind.
Sorry, I'm no longer playing with the controls of podcast. We can't be doing that.
And I completely agree with him that the AL is completely wide open. I mean, there hasn't been one super dominant team all year. And there's just nobody that's head and shoulders above the rest. So yeah, why not the Guardians? Let's go.
Yeah.
No, and now what I think will be interesting. Listen, there's still reasons for these guys to play. You realize where Jose Ramirez is at after tonight,
right?
4 games left. Jose Ramirez is now 3 home runs and 3 doubles away from a 40-40-40 season.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is unreal.
That's crazy.
Right.
So, he's going to want to go for that. And you know what the fun part about the end of the season is? I thought Steve's take on the end and what the Guardians should do at the end of the season is also, I think, a really interesting look at how they may proceed, because you have seen it the last few years. Look last year. Look at the Dodgers. They were the best team in baseball all season long. They wrap up that 1 seed and they get smoked in the divisional round by the Diamondbacks. If you let your competitive edge fall, if you let your guard down a little bit, it can be a problem for you in the postseason. I do think one thing I think helps is that you got guys chasing things. But the other thing that I think helps is that your last series of the season is against the Astros.
Right.
So it almost forces you, like, it's a chance for you to kind of show your mettle before you go into the playoffs. Or frankly, it's a chance for you to go out there and give some effort and maybe you get your butt kicked, but it's like, all right, well, we got to be better in the playoffs. I am hoping that Stephen Vogt doesn't. I don't know that we need to be like stretching out the pitchers and like sending their pitch counts into like the 110s.
No.
But I do think keeping them in the same kind of rhythm of the regular season, because you're about to have a week off. And so keeping them in that rhythm and keeping them competitive, I do think, I agree with Steve. I think that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the team's gone really cleanly through the season without a ton of injury. Obviously, you have Shane Beaver start of the year, which you almost forget about with how good this pitching staff has been. You have Sam Hedges that goes down for the year. And then a couple of things with Dallas Cobb and Stephen Kwan, they'll both be back in time for the playoffs. So I don't think we're concerned about that. But other than that, it's like a clean sheet, which is just incredible for this team.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we've seen it. The other thing, and I think today wrapped it up. Today, Tarek Skubal went out there for the Detroit Tigers and just dominated the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
So I think that wrapped up as Cy Young. But again, I can't get over the fact, this isn't so much about the Steve interview, but I did mention it. Boys, I can't get over the fact when you look at the season that Emmanuel Clase is having, I sat there and I went through. He is currently at a 4.5 WAR for the season.
That's crazy.
Like a good WAR for a closer is like 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, right.
Mariano Rivera had a 5 WAR his first season as a middle reliever, like setup guy for the Yankees, where he pitched a ton of innings. But when Mariano Rivera was a closer, he never had a WAR over 4.2. And then I just went through. Eric Gagne, the year he won the Cy Young, 3.6.
Wow.
K-Rod and Troy Percival and Trevor Hoffman. And like, you can start going backwards and you can start talking about Norm Charlton and just some of these great closers in the history of baseball. And none of them have ever had a WAR. And again, I think a WAR is a good measuring stick of what your player is doing that year. No, but none of them have ever had a WAR as high as Emmanuel Clase has. You have to go back to the years where guys were getting like 3-inning saves in like the 60s and 70s,
right?
For you to start seeing guys with a ton of saves and high WARs. Otherwise, this is Emmanuel Clase and then nobody else. It is him by himself at the top of that list. That is unbelievable. The season he is having is unreal.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've mentioned it about 5 or 6 times on this podcast.
You can't stop talking about it, though.
Yeah, we really can. Clase deserves the Cy Young. He's been the best pitcher in baseball. I don't care that that these starters went 5, 6, 7 innings. So what? So what? There is not a more dominant pitcher in baseball than Emmanuel Clase. He is unhittable. Tarek Skubal, yeah, of course you can make the case for him. But I'm a Guardians fan and I'm biased, so I want Emmanuel Clase to win the Cy Young.
Yeah. So here's what it looks like as far as the AL playoffs are concerned. The Yankees and the Guardians are going to be the 1 and 2 seed. Let's assume Guardians are 2. That means they're going to play the winner of the Houston Astros and whoever the bottom wild card team is, which right now would be Kansas City Royals.
What's that?
I thought the Tigers were just there. Maybe that switched over.
Yeah, the Tigers are the number 2 wild. So right now, if the season ended,
they moved up. Jeez.
Right now, if the season ended today, the Tigers would play Baltimore.
Yeah,
and the Kansas City Royals would play the Houston Astros.
It would be the Twins, actually.
Oh, did they move up?
Yeah, Royals are up. No, sorry, the Twins are out. My bad. Just ignore me.
Yeah, I'm ignoring
Royals. You got it. You're doing great, Mike.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great job.
Way to go.
Zook, just hold on. Wait. Zook asked, and I know I just said it, but just to reemphasize Francisco Lindor, Eric Gagne's WAR the season he won the Cy Young was 3.6. And I'm telling you, if Emmanuel Clase gets 1 or 2 more saves this year, he might finish with a 5, which is just absolutely unheard of in the modern day closer world. Absolutely unheard of. So yeah, it's wild. So anyways, they'd be looking at, if the season ended today, the winner of Kansas City, Houston. And I don't think, I think we talk so much about acting like it matters. I don't think it does. The Yankees are going to be sitting there waiting on the winner, Baltimore or Detroit. That's going to be a tough series no matter who it is. And when you get to the playoffs, who cares? Beat the team that's in front of you and then beat the next team that's in front of you. You just have to go in assuming if you want to win the World Series, you're going to have to beat Houston, New York, and the Dodgers. You just have to assume it. Now, that may not be the order of operations, but you just have to assume it and go into it. And I think what a test for this Guardians team, boys, if it's the Houston Astros, because if there's any team that knows how to win in the postseason, and they still get a lot of those same guys that have won World Series on that team, if there's any team that knows how to win in the postseason, it's the Houston Astros. So what a test that would be for the Guardians to kick things off.
Which makes Seattle has a chance to do the funniest thing.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Because they're playing Houston tonight and I think tomorrow.
That would be hilarious.
And then Houston comes. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, which is another reason, because we were talking about whether they should, what they should do with these last remaining games, but it's another reason to play your normal game against the Houston Astros. This is basically going to be a warm up to the postseason here. So, play your normal baseball, everything that you would normally do in your normal routine in a baseball game. Do that again in this last series against the Astros, because it's essentially a warm up, because I don't think any of us would expect the Astros to lose to the Royals. So
just
it's going to be a nice little scrimmage.
Don't use the same signs next week as using the postseason. Maybe switch those up.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been a great season, and we got 4 games left. We got 1 game tomorrow with the Cincinnati Reds that ends that series, and then 3 games at home over the weekend with the Houston Astros, and then you'll get like a week off from there before we see the Guardians again, and they will be hosting whoever they play. They'll be hosting game 1 of the ALDS in Cleveland, but a special season here for the boys. And I'm telling you, they get that starting pitching right, and you can get it to those back 3 guys in the bullpen, very similar to 2016, because they're going to expand roles. If you can get starters that give you 5 really good innings, and you can get it back there to Cade Smith and Hunter Gaddis and obviously Emmanuel Clase, and you can do enough to win games. I didn't even bring up, by the way, that Lane Thomas is on fire. He had another home run tonight.
Yeah.
After looking miserable for 3 weeks, Lane Thomas just has been great lately. It reminds you a lot of that 2016 team that was just
tell you what,
1 game away.
3-4 weeks ago was when we were tied with the Royals, and we talked about it. And it's like, okay, you don't need to be hot right now, but you have to get hot at the right time. And this team is getting hot these last 2 weeks of the season. They're carrying that momentum. I hope they carry it through the Astros series. But that's all you can ask for. Like, as a fan watching on this, you hope your team's getting hot. You hope they're going to the postseason hot, and they're doing everything possible here. So this should be an exciting next couple weeks for us here.
How does anybody get through a baseball season just
mentally?
Mentally, right?
I don't know.
It's such an emotional roller coaster, right? You get so upset and whatever, but really, it's like the first 4 months don't matter. And all that matters is August, September. That's really what it all comes down to. But obviously the other stuff matters. Obviously,
that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. But the start, especially for a team like the Guardians,
sure.
I feel like maybe a team like the Astros, again, they were down 10 games. I feel like maybe a team like the Astros didn't care so much about the beginning of the season, but they care now.
Yeah, sure.
They can turn it on. A team like the Guardians needed the hot start.
Yeah,
they needed to get that. They needed to build that belief that they could do. Again, the unsung hero of this entire season, because I know he really fell off the whole rest of the year, is going to be David Fry. What David Fry did to start the first half of this season, just being that third guy, he had 10 home runs the first month.
Yeah.
And he finished with 14. But
obviously,
what he did to start this season, The beginning of the season, the end, it all mattered for the Guardians. All of it.
Yeah, obviously I know the rest of it all matters. But yeah.
But I have one question for you guys before we get off of baseball. I was thinking about this, and we have a lot of conversations about the postseasons, and I always laugh at hockey fans always scream and shout about hockey being the best postseason, and you got the basketball postseason and football. I don't think there's a more stressful. If you're a fan of a team, I don't think there's a more stressful postseason than the baseball postseason. No. There's an average of 240 pitches per game, and every single one of them feels like it's the most important thing that has happened all season. Baseball postseason is the most stressful postseason of all of them, and I don't know that it's close.
Yeah, and it's like with, I guess basketball and hockey could be the exceptions here, but just like the series are so long, and you have all this activity within it, and it's just like, yeah, you watch a game on a normal day, it's like, oh yeah, a couple balls, a couple walks here and there, whatever. Like we'll get them tomorrow. Postseason, you gotta split the first 2 games or win them both, or else it's tough and it's stressful. And oh man, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for the heart attack that comes with baseball.
Yeah. Can we please just no like 1 p.m. Thursday games?
Oh, of course it's gonna be. No, it's you get that. It's like the second inning, the second batter of the second inning, and there's nobody on base. It doesn't even matter. And it's a strikeout, and I'm like off my couch, like, let's go. That is baseball postseason. So I'm wound up. I'm ready to go. And I'm grateful that we get to watch these teams beat up on each other in the wild card round, and we don't have to stress about that because, again, the Guardians just put on a magical show this season. So, again, big shout out to Steve Phillips for joining us to talk a little bit about baseball at the end of the season here. And shout out to the Guardians officially tonight, wrapping up the number 2 seed in the American League. It's not official. That's where they will be, but 99% that's where they're going to be. So huge shout out to the Guardians. All right, boys, let's move on. I've got a few other topics I want to talk about. So let's blast into it. First of all, let's do our asshole of the week, though. I'll kick us off because my asshole of the week is very much related to what we were just talking about. My asshole of the week are Minnesota Twins fans. Because Minnesota Twins fans, when the Guardians got off to the hot start, man, they got loud online. I feel like they don't realize the way the Twins have played the Guardians the last 10 years. They got real loud online. There were a lot of people that were like, by August 1st, the Twins will be 10 games up in the division. And they never lost. They never lost that. It was like a smug confidence that they're going to just destroy the Guardians and they'll come back and they'll easily run away with the division. Well, not only did the Guardians stomp a hole in that ass last week, taking 3 of 4 from the Twins and really ending any hopes they had of that. But while the Guardians were doing that, the Detroit Tigers were also just on a flat out tear. And Detroit looked dead in the water. They sold at the deadline. They got rid of their ace pitcher. They sold at the deadline. And now the Guardians have won the division and they're the 2 seed in the playoffs. The Detroit Tigers right now are the number 2 wild card team. And even though they have free fallen a bit, the Kansas City Royals still hanging on to that number 3 seed in the postseason. And guess who's on the outside? Guess who's about to finish 4th in the division? You smug ass Minnesota Twins fans. Yeah, take it. You thought you were coming back. You didn't come back from shit. Your team sucked this year. Your pitching sucked. Your bullpen sucked. Your hitting was never timely. And you're going to finish in 4th place in the division. And you're not making the playoffs. So shout out to all the Twins fans, except for our buddy Dave Metzold, because we love him, who decided to talk a bunch of shit over the season. You're my asshole of the week.
Love it.
Joe, what about you, buddy?
We'll get into this, but the Browns. just the organization.
What an asshole.
They're assholes. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get
Except Myles Garrett. Love you, Myles.
All right, Chad. All right, go ahead, buddy.
I'm going to go with
Is your microphone off, Chad?
Huh?
Your microphone, it's off.
I'm going to go with Mr. has to blast his system while getting gas guy.
Oh, car on?
Yeah, like car on, just your 95 Oldsmobile or Cutlass, just rusted out suspension, just rattling. And you leaning up against the car like you're fucking Billy Madison leaning up against his Firebird the first day of school. It's not the coolest thing in the world to let everybody know at a gas station that you got a subwoofer in your rusted out car. So yeah, you're kind of an asshole for doing that.
Shut the hell up! I'm trying to pump my gas.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, is it necessary? Nah.
I'm trying to watch the little sports highlights on the little screen at the gas station.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch Speedway TV. Can you leave me alone?
All right, that's a good one. All right, those are our assholes of the week, where we just people are being idiots. All right, boys, let's move on to Joey's asshole. Not a comment. I really wanted to say that way.
You did it again. You did it again.
Well, it's the Browns. I don't know which one. I mean,
you should just.
I don't know which one would be better. I don't know which one would be better. Cleveland Browns. Let's talk about them because we watched a devastating, dominant loss week 1 against the Cowboys. We watched a really good first half of football against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then holding on for dear life against the Jags and having to make one final defensive stop at the end of that game, even though that game should have been over before it started. And then we come into this week, and this was, by all accounts, coming into this season, the one game that we laughed at on the calendar, the one game that we laughed at on the schedule. We can have conversations about all these other teams and why they might be competitive, but damn it, the New York Giants aren't going to be competitive. And the Cleveland Browns played such an atrocious, it's an abomination of the game of football. Just an absolute travesty in the NFL. They made Daniel Jones look like Joe Montana. They made Malik Neighbors look like Jerry Rice. They made the run defense of the New York Giants, who came in the worst in the league after the first 2 weeks. The run defense for the Giants that gave up 217 yards the previous week to the Washington Commanders of all team. They couldn't run and they couldn't block. The offensive line was atrocious. And then our quarterback looked panicked the whole game. Our quarterback was just panicked. He started hot and he never got hot again. And it was an embarrassing loss. The Cleveland Browns, after 8-1 on the year at home last year, have already doubled that loss total. They are 0-2 at home. And I don't know, boys. I don't know. I don't know where we start late. The blame goes around. I don't know where to even start laying it, though.
I think I go back to I think we have a bigger problem. I go back to Cameron's comment when we asked her what the temperature at camp was, and she's like, "It's kind of weird."
Yeah, she did say that.
She said it was kind of weird, and it was like, you know, she was referencing like, you know, we don't have that like shiny new addition to the team like we've had in years past, which, you know, can play into like some excitement building up to the season, but like maybe that was more weirdness as in like this team is not gelling. Maybe there's some issues internally with the team. I mean, the defense is playing soft. The offense can't get anything going. Deshaun can't get anything going. He had one great pass to Amari Cooper, a couple others, and then he was running for his life out there. And granted, offensive line did not play their best game.
No,
and by the second quarter,
they were awful.
By the second quarter, it was, you know, Joe Bitonio at left guard or left tackle, and he had Zach Zinter in there, and he had a whole bunch of things mixed up in there. And so, but it just, I don't even know where to begin. It's like the inability to throw the ball,
to do anything.
Yeah, I'm lost. I'm lost on it.
I am with you, Joe. There's problems across the board right now. Across the board, offensively and defensively. The offensive line, injured. Terrible. Patchwork.
But also bad. but also bad.
Very bad. I mean, you know, Mike, you asked, like, I tweeted this. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I said you asked before the season. You were befuddled as to why so many people are saying this Browns team was an 8-9 win football team. One of the answers might have been right in front of our face, and we didn't even know it, and that's Andy Dickerson. You got a quarterback who's not trusting his eyes right now, doesn't trust the offense, doesn't seem like he's in sync with his head coach. Okay.
At all.
At all. You've got receivers dropping passes. You've got a head coach, dude. I've never, you know, I'm not a Stefanski hater by any means, but this was the first time I've never really saw him adjust. Defensively, right? Defensively, I mean, it's not the worst problem, but defensively, you don't get a pass rush, right? And a good secondary gets exposed. It felt like a good secondary was exposed for a good portion of that football game on Sunday. And then now you've got Myles Garrett hurt, and you're not it's all a mess right now. It is all a mess.
Let's talk about each group. Because I hate the Bill Callahan talk. These guys didn't forget how to play football because Bill Callahan left. They didn't forget how to play. They did not forget how to play football because Bill Callahan left. I think it's such a cop-out answer that, Bill Callahan left, so the offensive line sucks. No.
They're playing like they forgot how to play football.
Well, here's what I will tell you. One thing I didn't think we thought about was DeJuan Jones looks incredibly out of shape.
Right.
And he's a big dude. But, man, what was so impressive about him last year was that he was a big dude and he was fast. He is opposite of fast right now. He is so slow coming off the ball is snapped and his dude is past him. That never happened. He was abusing TJ Watt last year. He was abusing guys last year. Not this year. How about the fact that your boys up the middle, Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, who is now out for the next 4 weeks, and Ethan Posich. Bill Callahan doesn't affect those guys that much. They all know what they're doing. Each one of them gave up at least 5 pressures. The majority of the pressures came from those guys in the game, not from DeJuan Jones, even though he gave up his share, not from Jed Wills, who, Jesus Christ. It was those guys
touch anybody the whole game.
It was those guys on the middle that you rely on. Those were the guys that gave up pressures. That isn't Bill Callahan. I don't know what that is.
Don't people have to adjust? I mean, even offensive linemen have to adjust, right? We talk about people adjusting all the time. Even offensive linemen have to adjust. I mean, there were plenty of injuries along that offensive line last year too.
All year last year. And they were still better. They were better than what it looks like this year. Wills and Conklin were out all year last year.
Yeah.
Here's an adjustment they didn't make. You have 5 offensive linemen that were not doing their part. Why were there not more tight end sets where they're blocking? Why were there no blocks by the running back? Not no, but like Jerome Ford wasn't throwing any chip blocks. He was always on a route. Almost always on a route during that game. Like,
no, I think you run into 2 problems with the Giants game. And one of them is the fact that the offensive line just didn't show up to the game. And 2, I mean, Zach Zinter came into the game and he was immediately their best offensive lineman. He played great.
Yeah, he played awesome.
The other issue is, and I'm going to lay this at the feet of our quarterback and of our play callers, our head coach and our offensive coordinator. What is the play calling out there? And where is the adjustment? Your offensive line is getting absolutely smoked. And nothing is coming out quick. Part of that, I believe, is because Deshaun Watson does not get rid of the ball fast. He didn't in Houston. He doesn't here. It was always his knock, was that he holds onto the ball for a long time. In Houston, he would make something happen. Here in Cleveland, he makes nothing happen. He can't avoid anything. He's not fast anymore. He doesn't get away from tackles anymore. He just holds onto the ball.
Yeah.
But at the same token, like, they ran a screen pass to Jerome Ford on their second drive. And if it was caught by Jerome Ford, which it was not because he dropped it, it was going for like 30 yards. There was nobody. The Giants brought a heavy blitz, and there was nobody on the other side of Jerome Ford. Where was that play call again? Where was any of that short passing? If you want to know why Daniel Jones looked great against the Browns, this vaunted Browns defense, it's because the vaunted Browns defense played overly aggressively, and the Giants just completely simplified everything for that dude. That ball was out of his hands fast every single time.
Yep.
Everything was fast. Everything was quick. The Browns never adjusted. It was just they just kept dropping Deshaun back. He's not seeing open guys. There's plenty of examples of that. Reminds me of Baker years. And then, but they're not adjusting the play calls either. It was just, it's like they thought the way we thought about this game. Like, we're going to go out and win this game. And there were no adjustments. It was unbelievable.
Give me a bootleg. Something.
Oh, God.
Something.
Anything.
Move the pocket. I mean, if you have a quarterback who lives off of creating on his own, move the pocket. Do something. You got to do something. Status quo from that first half of that game wasn't working. You had to do something, and he didn't.
And listen, I got to tell you, man, we can have conversations about the adjustments Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey didn't make. We can talk about that kind of soft. We could talk about Martin Emerson, man, getting abused by Malik Neighbors. But I will tell you, in the second half, guys played better. Defense much better in the second half. The defense really dominated the second half. They gave up no points. Now, they should have gave up a touchdown, but Singletary needed at the end. But at that point, the game was over anyways. I think the offensive line, I mean, once you slid Batoni over to left tackle and Posich over to left guard, and I don't even like Nick Harris, but he was all right at center. Once you did that, the offensive line started holding up a little bit better. Your wide receivers were making plays.
Except for Cedric Tillman.
Well, wait a minute. You got the ball 3 times at the end of that game. I felt like I was back in those Baker years. I know everybody, I don't love to do the Baker thing, but I felt like I was back in those years. It was always our knock on Baker was he could be really good at certain points of a game. But back when he was with Cleveland, I know he's doing better things with Tampa, but back when he was with Cleveland, you put the ball in his hands and you ask him to drive the team down the field for a win, and most of the time he wasn't going to do it.
No, he failed.
You put the ball in the hands of Deshaun Watson 3 times at the end of that game when you were down by 6 with a chance to go down the field and win. At one time you started with the ball at midfield, and you have a botched handoff to Jerome Ford, who you can blame it on both of them. I hate, though, you got to blame it on one or the other. Watson did not hand that ball off well, but Jerome Ford has to be a pro and just handle a bad handoff. Like, God.
For all the Baker lovers, just real quick, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception against the Broncos last week. So,
yeah, but we're not doing this every week.
Simmer down.
Baker, I don't mean it like that. The next possession, Watson was awful. He, on that 4th and 1, Chad, you posted it to our page. On the 4th and 1, they run an RPO. All he's got to do is read the safety. He doesn't read the safety. He's got Jordan Akins wide open on the flat. Because all he's looking for there is, where does the safety go? And am I going to throw the slant or am I going to throw the flat? That's all he's looking at. The flat is wide open. And that isn't going to be a first down. That's going to be like a 15, 20-yard gain. He just doesn't throw it. He tries to run left. He gets stopped. Boom, 4th down, turnover. And then he throws his best throw of the game. Literally his best throw of the game. Came on 4th down of their last drive. And he threads the needle to Cedric Tillman. And I got to tell you, you guys ever watch the it's like a TikTok guy, and it's usually college football where he acts like he's the coach, but then he also acts like the players in the film room after the game. And it's like the coach just making fun of the players in the film room. I'm telling you, I hope Cedric Tillman got roasted in the film room.
For sure.
It's not just the drop. Why did you just pick your feet up off the ground?
Right. Why did you jump?
Dude, if you would have caught that, if he would have caught it in stride and kept running, there was yards to gain after that.
Right.
He psyched himself out. He spazzed. He was like, I have to catch this and get this first down instead of just making a football play. And that play could have gone for 40 yards.
Right.
Because the defender tried to undercut the pass and he had room behind him.
Right.
But instead, they keep showing this picture of the ball bouncing off his chest plate with he's upright as hell with his knees bent like shit and his feet are just off the ground.
Yeah.
He didn't need to dive. The ball hit him right where it needed to.
Right.
And he drops it. And the Browns lose the game. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing what they're doing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I felt icky. But a long time ago, I decided that the Browns weren't going to ruin my Sundays. But it ruined it for at least a good hour or two. Just because it was, you always got to be weary of this is the game we should win type of game against the Browns, with the Browns. And it's just, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's like the problems are so there, right? And it's nothing complicated. It's not a complicated fix. It's just that they have to do it. That's all they have to, right? Like there isn't some sort of minor adjustment here, minor tweak there. There isn't. They don't have to completely change anything. It's just that they just got to go out and play football, and they just don't. They don't. I know it sounds I know I sound like a simpleton saying that, but it's not a complicated fix. They just have to execute. That's it.
Well, and I'm going to say it. I'll say it again. I've said it a bunch of times. But what really concerns me is that there is just not a fit with your head coach and play caller and your quarterback. Because Deshaun Watson, in his best of times, in his best of seasons, was not a timing quarterback. He was not an anticipation quarterback. He's a guy that could step back and zoom the ball in when he needed to. And I don't want to take things away from him, but he was a guy that could work really well in chaos and a guy that could work well on the boundaries, and he could run and he could pass and he could do a lot of really good things, but he wasn't like a timing anticipation thrower. And I think what you've seen now, I think there's enough in the Kevin Stefanski file to say that the quarterback that succeeds in a Kevin Stefanski offense is one that trusts the offense and trusts where he needs to put the ball, and he throws the ball before he sees what his receiver has even done. It's timing, it's anticipation, and Deshaun plays with none of it.
Right. No.
And so when people are like, well, why did it work with Joe Flacco? It's because Joe Flacco understood 3-step drop, get the ball out, and put the ball in a location where he knows his receiver is going to be. Deshaun Watson is 3-step drop and then wait till you see where your receiver is. And then if he's open, throw it. That's Deshaun. It's not a match made in heaven. And I want to yell at Kevin Stefanski and say, you need to adjust your offense so that this guy can play better in it. But at the same time, it's like asking it for it to be so dumbed down. It's hard. It's hard.
I can't think of a comeback or a curl or any route where the receiver has had to come out or turn where the ball's been there this season from Deshaun.
No, he's got to wait for it.
And if it has, it's been in the ground. The couple ones that it has
been in the ground.
Well, and I know you can't say anything bad about the quarterback, or else I didn't realize there were as many Deshaun guys as Baker guys. Because last week I made comments about leave Baker out of this and blah, blah, blah. And I was inundated with the comments from the Baker bros. I make one comment saying Deshaun sucks. He does. Right now, Deshaun Watson sucks ass. He sucks ass. He is a shit quarterback. He is the worst starting quarterback in the game of football. I want you all to hear that. We're playing Gardner Minshew this week, and I'd rather have Gardner Minshew on my team than the guy we're starting. That's how bad he has been. And you could say, oh, it's the offensive line. No, I'm tired of a quarterback. I said it with Baker, and I'm saying it with Deshaun. I'm tired of a quarterback that needs everything around him to be perfect to be good. I'm ready to have a quarterback that makes all the imperfect things around him better. It's not Deshaun Watson. And until he starts showing that it is, I'm going to keep saying the same things. I'm so tired of having to make all the excuses in the world for this dude when in reality, he isn't doing jack shit to earn those excuses.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. And and the thing is, it's just people, we talked about the blame game earlier. It's people just Browns fans just want to have hope. They want to cling to something, right? So they want to say it's this and not this, or this and not this. No, it's a whole ass issue. And the most and the blame game, it's going to fall on the most important people in the organization, and that's the quarterback, and that's the coach. That's ultimately what it's going to fall on. And the people, the most important people in your organization, are failing you right now.
Hey, listen, are they losing because the offensive line is bad? Yes. Are they losing because the wide receivers have dropped passes every week so far this year? Yes. Are they losing because for some reason in a half of football, the Browns defense could not figure out Daniel Jones? Yes. Are any of those the biggest reason they're losing? No. The biggest reason they're losing is because the worst player on their team is their quarterback.
Yeah.
Get that shit through your heads.
Yeah.
The worst player on the Cleveland Browns right now is the goddamn quarterback.
No, what are you talking about, Mike? Multiple things can't be true in an argument. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, come
Multiple things can't be true.
Look at that. You're seeing it in the comments here. And I love you guys. I know we haven't put up a ton of comments, but you guys have been everywhere in these comments.
Yeah.
But Chef Brian K., that's what Flacco, that's what he brought. He'd throw before the receivers made their cut. Yeah. Flacco wasn't even all that good last year. He was a 50 interception pace player. But God damn it, he knew how to operate that offense.
Right.
And Deshaun's clueless. So listen, I don't want to doom and gloom it. Can this season turn around? Absolutely. They could start this week in Vegas. And I got to tell you, boys, you're going against such a shitty team this week.
I know.
The Las Vegas Raiders are the worst running team in the game. They are averaging 2.8 yards a carry. B, they are the worst team through 3 weeks against the run. They're allowing almost 6 yards a carry. Number 3, they're one of the worst teams against the pass. They are allowing exceptional passing numbers. Look at Andy Dalton last week. And the Carolina Panthers just carving them up. Chuba Hubbard and Andy Dalton carved up this Oakland Raiders team last week. And they're trotting out Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew will always make me a little nervous because he is a chaos agent in the game of football. And 1 week he sucks and 1 week he's good, and you never know what you're going to get. But other than that, you got Devontae Adams out there and a bunch of nobodies. I do love their tight end, but they don't throw to him all that much. They cannot run the football. I'm telling you, boys.
20 to 14 Raiders.
Half the crowd at their stadium is going to be Browns fans.
Sure.
It's going to be all orange out there in Vegas.
Raiders are going to be angry this week, though.
Shouldn't the Browns be?
Well, they should be. Are they going to be? Who knows?
Shouldn't the Browns be?
Should be.
They should be. But like the fact that I know the Raiders are going to be angry and I don't know if the Browns are going to be angry is that says something about how this team's doing right now.
Right.
Yeah, great. I loved. Did you see Deshaun's outfit for his post game?
Nope.
It was like a green jumpsuit and a green.
I did see that. It looked like a fucking Beat Boy.
No, somebody goes, "Oh, cool." Deshaun dressed up like a pack of Newports for his press conference.
Yeah, fucking LL. Is that Deshaun or LL Cool J?
Listen, all right, let's real quick because I want to do one last thing before we get out of here. But let's talk about this game and let's adjust our predictions for this game. The Cleveland Browns against the Las Vegas Raiders in Vegas, Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. The Browns and Raiders are both 1-2 on the season. The Raiders have had a ridiculously hard schedule to start the season, but they've also been really bad. So I don't know. Chad, go ahead. Lead us off, man. What's your prediction?
I'm not going to trust the Browns until they give me reason to. I know it's 3 games. If that's an overreaction, fine. I don't care. The way from the Browns football team that I have seen through 3 games, it is unreliable. They are bipolar. I don't know what I'm going to get from them on a drive by drive basis, both offensively and defensively. This is Gardner Minshew, even though he's a chaos agent, he carved this Browns team up last year when he played them. I know he was with the Colts and maybe had a couple of better weapons on that team, but Gardner Minshew, you talked about one game he's good, one game he's bad. Well, last week he was bad, so guess what? This week he's got a chance to be good again. I can't. I'm not going to pick the Browns. I just don't trust them. 17-14 Oakland. 17-14
Vegas.
That's what I meant.
Joey.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Chad. I'm going to go 28-21 Oakland.
So you got the Browns scoring 20 points for the first time this season.
21 points. Yeah.
Ooh. I'm picking
maybe a defensive score in there.
I'm picking the goddamn Browns. Here's why I'm picking the Browns. I think they're going to win in spite of their asshole quarterback, who is the asshole of the week of the whole season so far. I think they're going to win in spite of that shithead. And I'm sorry. I'm so tired of him. And I'm so tired of acting like, well, next week's going to be the week. Oh, did you see that one pass he made?
No. This is our week. This is our week to decide. You out, you in on Deshaun.
Yeah, well.
Week 4.
I think they're gonna win in spite of him. I don't know whether he's gonna look good or not. Frankly, I don't care anymore. Because again, until this guy who acts like he is something, I have faith in myself and I'm gonna be better. Yeah, right. My ass.
Right.
You haven't shown it in 3 years. You've been here for 3 years and you haven't shown shit. And we're still hanging on to one good half against the Ravens and a good game last year against the Titans. We're still hanging on to that. But I think they win in spite of him because I think the defense is going to be pissed. Because I think, and Jay Richardson said this, if you missed my interview with Jay Richardson on the Doghouse, go watch it. I think what he said is right. I think a lot of these guys were getting text messages from their friends around the league going, did you guys really just make Daniel Jones look as good as you made him look?
Right.
I think this defense is going to be mad.
Yeah.
I think they are going to get after it. This is a Raiders team that you've got Devontae Adams. I am certainly hoping that we see Denzel Ward on this dude from the jump. And otherwise, there's nobody here that scares me. They have no running game. You had the head coach not committing to the starting quarterback this week. And the offense is just in shambles. I think you see multiple turnovers for the Browns this week. I think you see Jerome Ford with more than 100 yards rushing. And I don't give a shit what Deshaun does. The whole team's going to win in spite of him. And I think they're going to win by 10. So I'm going 20-10 Browns this week in Vegas. And I don't know that I'm even going to feel great about it, to be
maybe
honest.
we go 8-1 on the road this year. Huh? Flip the script a little. Huh? Yeah. 8-1 on the road.
Hey,
there we go.
Sure.
Oh, man.
Something.
There's my shred of positivity. I'm done now. Fuck the Browns.
No, don't fuck the Browns. We love the Browns. We love the Browns.
We do. We do love the Browns.
But just like family, we're allowed to be mad at them. And, man, I don't know that there's been a time, especially in the Kevin Stefanski era, I don't think there's been a time to be this mad at him like this before. So, yes, they deserve it. They deserve the boos. They deserve the criticisms. And now it's time for these guys to answer. I just think enough of them are going to this week against the Raiders. So,
are the Steelers for real with 3-0?
Yeah, they're for real. Yes, they're for real.
That sucks. Anyways, we can go on.
No, well, we can talk. There's a couple things to talk about.
I mean,
yes,
I brought that up because I was thinking, the Ravens are 1-2.
Yep.
So we're not that far out of second.
Bengals are 0-3.
No, the Steelers are for real. They're trotting out an exceptional defense.
Yeah,
and
great defense.
And they have found a way to call games with Justin Fields that's efficient and effective.
Yeah,
100%. They're for real. 100%.
Yeah.
Baltimore's going to come around, but man, Baltimore does seem to go like 2 years on, 1 year off. This might be that off year because they just look weird.
Yeah,
they just look
it
weird.
Is interesting. Yeah,
this Raiders
team right this year is odd.
This Raiders team went to Baltimore and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The Bengals stink.
Yeah,
the Bengals
terrible.
Stink.
They're not good.
Oh, they stink.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. That's the Bengals is all about the way that it's a climate of the organization.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to threaten not to pay all your players every offseason.
Right.
Every offseason. Oh, we're not going to pay Jamar. Oh, we're not going to pay T. Higgins. Oh, we're not going to. Oh, see you later, Joe Mixon. Oh, we're just not going to pay. Look at the guys they got rid of on defense last year. We're not going to pay these guys. Well, guess what? You guys are pissed.
Right.
And they're not playing hard. And it's embarrassing. Oh, my God. They got smoked yesterday.
Terrible.
And you got other asshole of the week. This should have been my asshole of the week. Cam Taylor-Britt talking shit. Every week this dude talks shit. Every week the dude comes out in the media and talks shit. He called the Washington Redskins a JV offense. We're not worried about them. They don't do anything complicated. It's all short passes. It's a JV offense. And then Cam Taylor-Britt proceeded to get torched down the field by Terry McLaurin like 5 times in that game. It was awesome to watch.
That was
just
beautiful.
Got torched over and over and over again.
They've been fun to watch, the Commanders.
Heck yeah.
They've been exciting.
We got that game coming up next week. Not ready for that.
Here we are.
But otherwise, it is a weird year in the NFL, right? Again,
the Commanders
are
leading the division right now.
AFC North is just brutal. The Minnesota Vikings are great for some reason. The Jacksonville Jaguars might be the worst team in football.
Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins are 1-2, and they have one. You know who has a worse offense than the Cleveland Browns? The Miami Dolphins.
Right.
Now, granted, without Tua, that's a thing, but it's just a weird year. It's weird.
I'm surprised the Dolphins did not have a higher caliber second-string quarterback on that team.
Yeah. You would have thought after the past couple of years, they would have maybe really gone after that.
Invested in somebody there, but that's crazy.
Yeah. So, all right. Listen, I want to do one more thing, and we're going late again, but too much fun stuff to talk about this year. But I want to go back to a celebratory mood now that we're done talking about the Browns and we got that shit out of the way. And I want to do a little quick. We're going to do this as a team draft, okay? We're going to do a little team draft. We're going to take it back to the Cleveland Guardians, and we're going to bring the Indians back into the fold. We're going to do something we haven't done before. And I want the best starting lineup all-time starting lineup for the Cleveland Indians / Guardians.
Yeah.
And we will go. Let's go.
Outfield to infield or infield to
outfield? Infield?
Sure.
Okay, so we got to pick 3 outfield. So we'll pick 3 outfielders, 4 infielders, a pitcher, starting pitcher, a closer, and a designated hitter. How about that?
Sure.
Okay.
Works for me.
Oh God, I think I got this. Okay, so let's start with, I think, what should be the easiest of all the positions, and that's center field.
It makes me second guess it now.
What? There's only one answer to this, guys. What?
I mean, yes.
What?
Yes.
Yes, what? Who are you thinking?
Kenny
What?
Lofton?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know there was some old guy I wasn't thinking of. Yeah,
No,
Kenny Lofton.
there is an old guy you're not thinking of.
There is.
Yeah.
It's Kenny Lofton.
It's Kenny Lofton.
What's that look for, though? You could make a case for Larry Doby.
You could, but he's not. I mean, you could.
I'm not referring to Larry Doby as some old guy, but
You could make a case that Larry Doby was great, and obviously what he went through to do what he did was great, but Kenny Lofton is the greatest center fielder in the history of the Cleveland baseball organization. Shout out to
what, just because he robbed home runs?
What do you mean just because what are you talking about?
What?
Just because he robbed home runs? Is that why?
Do you
It's like what a 6 things he did exceptionally well as a player.
Kenny Lofton?
Well, yeah. Did you forget Larry Doby?
Did you forget Kenny Lofton is like, I think the next person in line to be the franchise leader in stolen bases is like 500 stolen bases behind Kenny Lofton.
Sure.
Kenny Lofton should be in the Hall of Fame.
How many times did Kenny Lofton drive in 100 from center field?
None.
Yeah. Yeah,
How many
Larry
times?
Larry Doby did that 5 times as a Cleveland Indian.
Was he the leadoff hitter?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he?
I don't know. I think he was second. I think he was second or third.
Nah, Larry Doby's a good one. Listen,
He can be the bench guy. He can be the platoon guy in center field.
I would love to throw in. I saw somebody debating if you had an athlete from your home teams that you could like reset their career and guarantee them perfect health through their career. I think Grady Sizemore could have went down as the greatest center fielder that ever played for the Cleveland Indians.
I was going to put him at left field.
Sure. Hey, he's going to be the manager of the White Sox now. He's going to get promoted.
I hope he does. Grady Sizemore, I think, could have been the best of all of them, but the injuries ate him up. But no, it's Kenny Lofton. Kenny Lofton. I love Larry Doby, though. Kenny Lofton.
Well, should we start with the second easiest one of all time, shortstop?
No, we're going outfield to infield.
Next, oh, yeah, that's right. Right.
Then Joe just said something really stupid about left field. So let's go to left field and let's make that correction.
What'd you say about left field?
This
He
feels
was going to put Grady Sizemore in left field.
What?
Would it be Michael?
Left field is way easier than center field. That's for sure.
Left field's really easy, and I haven't heard anybody say it yet.
Albert Bell, hello.
Oh,
Albert Bell.
Jesus.
This dude's out here having 50 homer, 50 double seasons. The most feared, I think, because of the way Albert Bell's career went down, and then the longevity of the person that's probably going to be in right field, and his career. I think people don't realize that in those mid-90s teams for the Cleveland Indians, the feared hitter was Albert Bell. It wasn't
100%.
There were other feared hitters in the lineup, but the one guy was Albert Bell.
Right.
Albert Bell was an anomaly. Albert Bell was the guy you say doesn't exist anymore. Albert Bell was power and average and speed and everything.
Yeah.
And he was the toughness of the team.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Albert, it's easy, Albert Bell.
All around. It's just in all facets of the game. Just an incredible hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. An incredible player overall.
Yeah. I mean, Joey, right field, we all know.
I think right field's going to be easy too.
Yeah.
Lonnie Chisenhall.
All right, moving on.
Let's go.
We're going to just say Manny Ramirez
here.
Then,
It's Manny Ramirez. It's Manny Ramirez.
It's easy, Manny Ramirez.
Maybe this wasn't such a good idea because the lineup's really just going to be the 90s hitters.
Well, no, it's going to change. It's going to change eventually.
Yeah.
Actually, it's
kind of.
It's going to be mostly that, to be honest.
Let's start with third base.
Well, let's go to third base then. Let's go to third base because it's today's third baseman. It's Jose Ramirez is the best third baseman.
100%. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And that's really cool, to be honest.
Yeah. It's cool to know that we know he's going to be probably the best of all time. And if anyone tops him, can't wait for that team. But
and there have been some good, just in our lifetimes, there's been some really good third base. Travis Fryman was so good.
Right. Yeah. Matt Williams was good.
Matt Williams, but he was here for a year.
He was here for a year, but he was good when that year he was here.
Casey Blake. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh.
But Jose Ramirez is going down as one of the top 5 all time at any position, let alone third base. So he's the easy one. Let's go back to the 90s at shortstop then, should we?
Is there I don't know. Is there a debate there? Could you make a case? Huh?
At where?
At shortstop?
Yeah.
Between Omar and Frankie?
I think there's a solid argument there.
Yeah, I think that's a solid argument.
I don't think that's
defensively they're on par.
What's that?
Frankie was so good and he had the playoff success too. And there was a power element to Frankie, but he wasn't here long enough to make that debate.
Okay.
He was here for 8 years.
And I really do think the shortstop, if you're going to debate a shortstop with Omar Vizquel, it's a guy that we never saw play. But Lou Boudreau may be the greatest shortstop in the history of the team. We just never saw him.
Okay.
So it's hard for us. There's going to be older players that we probably could put into this list that we never saw, and that's hard to do.
Well,
and listen, Chad and I are both. Chad's in his 40s. I'm going to be 40 in February. We've been around for a while, long enough, but Lou Boudreau's got a lot of great stats. Lou Boudreau's done a lot of good things, but but it's Omar.
I mean, the starting pitcher is going to be old, so we got that going.
Yeah.
That is true. The starting pitcher is going to be old.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you have to give it to Omar. As good as Frankie was, especially the end of Frankie's tenure where that thing just loomed over the whole thing.
Yeah. All right.
Enjoy him. And that is such a bummer. So I'm giving it to Omar, but Frankie deserves the recognition. I do.
Honorable mention.
Right. For sure. All right. Second base.
I love this one.
You love this one.
Who do we got?
Do we go back to the 90s and go Robbie?
Well, early 2000s and late 90s, early 2000s.
It was late 90s. Robbie Alomar?
Robbie Alomar, Baerga, Kipnis.
Oh, Kipnis was a fun one.
Yeah. Kipnis was a lot of fun.
Where
you at on this one?
I'm going to go old. And I'm going to go really old. But it's one of the great players in the history of baseball. It's a guy that this team got named after.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of the great second basemen of all time. A guy that hit 350 for his career, if I'm not mistaken. And just was, again, he finished his career and the team was like, well, we're going to fucking name ourselves the Naps because that guy was unbelievable. I'm going to go Napoleon Lajoie.
Okay.
That's my old guy that I think should be on this list.
Okay.
Because especially he did it at a time where, like, we're talking like dead ball era where he was just a masher. And yeah, I mean, I think he deserves.
Cool.
I think he deserves that.
I like that.
Why not? I mean, well, that and we also got to put old guys in this list. We wouldn't be fair.
5-time batting champ. I'm looking up his stuff now. Triple Crown winner, 5-time batting champion, AL home run leader. Like, dude was just unreal. So I'm going with him. I think first base is easy.
Jim Thome. Easy peasy. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Jim Thome.
Yeah.
All time. And again, maybe Jose's coming for that record, but all time franchise home run leader, Jim Thome.
Yeah.
So you got to go with that.
DH?
Oh, mine's super easy for DH.
Who's that?
That run in those mid to late 2000s, man, was anchored by the most feared hitter for the Cleveland Indians at the time. That was Travis Hafner.
Yeah.
I love Travis.
Okay.
Hafner.
I go Frank.
Okay.
You guys can put other players on the list. You guys can put other players. You guys can suggest it. I love Travis Hafner. He's for me, he's my recommendation for DH.
That's what I was thinking. Remember they used to have like Pronk's porch in the mezzanine level in right field?
He was
devastating. He was incredible. He had that big like I can't even do it because my arms aren't big enough, but like
right.
That just like stands at the box.
We're starting to get some comments. Eddie Murray, he just wasn't here long enough. And Eddie Murray's prime, the prime of Eddie Murray's career, when he was at his best, wasn't here. That's the problem. I love Eddie Murray. Don't get me wrong. I love Eddie Murray. I love what Ellis Burks did here. You could throw, if we're going to start throwing Eddie Murray in there, you might as well throw in Cecil Fielder and Dave Winfield because those guys played here too. But like Eddie Murray's an Oriole. Dave Winfield's a Yankee or a Padre. I love that they were here, but to me, Travis Hafner is the guy.
Even though he was an outfielder, could we maybe consider Rocky Colavito for DH?
100%. Any DH could be any position.
Okay,
Chad.
all right. Just making sure. I didn't know if he had to be a DH. If he had to be a DH, but to qualify for the list. But
I had to look this up because I couldn't remember the stat. But it was 2006 for Travis Hafner before the All-Star break. How many Grand Slams did he have?
6, I think. Right.
It's 5 before the All-Star break.
Oh, before, yeah.
First player in Major League history to do that.
Listen, Zook's coming out. David Justice. Oh my God, David Justice was so awesome here too.
Yeah, he really was.
You know what was the best part about David Justice? He was a lefty that mashed lefties. So they would bring in left-handed pitchers to face David Justice, and he would just eat them alive. It was awesome.
Every time he hit the ball, too, it looked like he hit it hard. Like it didn't look like there was any dribblers or anything. It looked like he just drove the ball every time he hit it, man. He had a beautiful swing. Beautiful swing.
Again, if we're going back to our lifetime, there were some I mean, you could throw Juan Gonzalez on this list. Remember how
Sure.
good Gonzalez was when he was here?
Gosh.
Unbelievable. I
Juan
think he had like 150 RBIs that one year, 2001.
Yeah.
But man, Travis Hafner was just so unbelievable.
Obviously, catcher's Tony Pena. Moving on.
I was thinking Kelly Shop again.
Well, I'd like to throw Eddie Taubensee into the mix.
Ooh, whoa! Don't threaten me with a good time.
It's got to be Sandy, right?
Yeah,
but Sandy or Victor? I mean, Victor Martinez got to be on that list.
Yeah, I don't think he tops Sandy, but he's like Lindor is an honorable mention at the top.
I guess the argument there is who was the better defensive catcher, because Victor was a far better hitter than Sandy was.
Oh, far better.
Yeah.
Sandy was a better defensive catcher.
Okay. All right.
But
then pitcher's Bob Feller, right? Starting pitcher Bob Feller.
I also think you got to throw Ray Fosse into the mix for catcher.
The guy who danced, the guy who's the dancer, Fosse.
Ray Fosse, the guy who got his leg snapped in half in the All-Star game because Pete Rose decided to plow into the catcher during the All-Star game, and it basically ended his career.
Yeah.
But Ray Fosse was a stud, and I want his name mentioned here. But otherwise, no, I'm gonna go. We'll go.
I love the MLB All-Star game. It's the best.
Oh my Lord. Bob Feller's the pitcher.
Yeah, right.
You can go with a lot of honorable mentions, and if we're gonna go our lifetime, you can go with CC, and you can go with Kluber and
Lee.
What?
Cliff Lee.
Yeah, but it's Bob Feller. Bob Feller's an all-time. Bob Feller's it's like saying Jim Brown, right? You've had all these guys that have come after him, but it's always Bob Feller.
It's always Bob.
It's always Bob Feller, and then the interesting one, I'm putting Emmanuel Clase as the closer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I'm putting him as the closer. I don't think – I do think we sometimes forget how dominant Jose Mesa was in those mid-'90s years, because then he got mental and went off the deep end and then started blowing a bunch of saves, and we remember that part of him. We remember the fact that he hates Omar Vizquel, and we're always going to side with Omar Vizquel on this. But, I've never seen a closer pitch the way Emmanuel Clase pitches for the Guardians. And get just a Clase all day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Feller still holds the record for the only opening day no hitter, doesn't he?
Is he the only one? Yeah, I think.
Let me look.
I think so. And then I read some there's a lot of fun Bob Feller stats that you can look up. Like his fastball was supposedly clocked at 107 miles an hour, even though it was unofficial. 107.
I mean, he was a stud.
Yeah.
He was a stud. There's a lot of classic guys. There's a lot of classic guys that get left off because we didn't see him, right? Every time you go to the park, you see Earl Averill's name, one of the great hitters in the history of the organization. I never saw the guy play. That's hard to throw him in there.
Right.
And we threw a couple guys in that we didn't ever see play. But I think it's a pretty good list, boys. I think it's pretty good. The only one we left off that I think we shouldn't have is obviously Milton Bradley.
Yes, of course. Who could forget?
All right. We just wanted to do it. We just wanted to do a fun little throwback Indians, Guardians, all time, even though it wound up just being the 90s team with a couple sprinkled in. But again, we're celebrating the Guardians. We're celebrating the fact that they wrapped up that second seed. We're celebrating the fact that they get to just sit and watch as two wild card teams duke it out to see who has the right to come here to Cleveland and play them at Progressive Field. And I hope they go in with that intensity, and I hope they go in with that protect this house mentality, because the Cleveland Guardians, when all is said and done, boys, the Cleveland Guardians are 11 wins away from a World Series championship.
And this just in, the Astros have clinched the West, so it will be the Astros versus the third seed.
Okay. All right.
Officially.
Nice.
So we'll see.
The sixth seed.
Sixth seed.
Yep. But again, no matter what happens the rest of the regular season, if the Guardians get to the postseason and they win 11 games, they win the World Series. So that's where we're at. They've won 90 plus. They need 11 more for a World Series, and we're all rooting for it. So conversation tonight here on the Garage Beers podcast. Great talk about the Guardians. Great talk with Steve Phillips. Great talk about the Browns, even though we're all mad at them. Our last order of business before we get out of here, boys, is our cheers of the week, where we just send it around for somebody that deserves a cheers. And so, guys, why don't we do that? Joey, why don't you lead us off? Who's your cheer this week?
Give me Stephen Vogt, man. I was so skeptical about him going into the season. He has a nothing but blow my expectations away. I hope that he has much success with this organization and team. And as a coach, I'm really excited that he's our manager and stoked for what he's done with this team this year.
All right, Stephen Vogt gets the cheers. Chad, what about you?
I got two. My first is going to go to John Tortorella, our old friend, Torts. Bringing in Guy Gaudreau to practice. Awesome. Just giving him a call. I mean, his family, the Gaudreau family, lives in the area. I guess Guy was a little hesitant at the time, and to, just leaving it up to him, putting it on his timetable. But yeah, Guy Gaudreau was at practice with the Flyers, just helping out, because Guy Gaudreau is also a youth coach as well. Yeah. So he does a lot for the game of hockey in the area. Taught Johnny and Maddie how to skate, how to play hockey, and yeah, it was an awesome gesture by Torts. Torts, say what you will about his coaching style, but everything that you see about Torts off the ice is just what an incredible human.
Just a great guy. Yes.
Yeah. And then my second goes to the 2024 Midwest League champions, the Lake County Captains. Hey-o. Let's go. Let's go, guys.
You know what? I'm still taking Bob Feller, but Chef Brian K says Satchel Paige. Great one. Yeah. But you also got to remember he joined the Indians when he was like 40.
51. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But Bob Feller still, but yes, that's a great one because I love Satchel Paige. How about the Captains?
Let's go. Let's go. They lost game Travis. 1. Yeah. They lost game 1. They game 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Dominant. Completely dominant.
Call up Bazana.
Why not?
Let's go.
Why
not?
I love it.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
My cheer of the week is going to go to my first alma mater, Bowling Green Falcons. How good their football team looks. I'm excited to see what they can do in the MAC. But back-to-back weeks, the Bowling Green Falcons go to Penn State and they've lost both the games. So I know they've lost both the games. But they go to Penn State, a team that's supposed to contend for a playoff spot, and they damn near beat Penn State. And then they go down to my other alma mater, the first time they ever played. We were at Cedar Point on Saturday. I had a Texas A&M hat and a Bowling Green shirt on because they have never played before. And they go into Kyle Field, and they goddamn should have won that game against A&M. And A&M was lucky to get away from Bowling Green for a win. And, man, I don't know. Their quarterback looks nice. That tight end, Fannin, he might be the best tight end in football. He is a stud. And Bowling Green, man, I'm hoping they bring the same energy and intensity to their MAC schedule that they did to those two games. Because if they do, I don't know that they're going to lose another game the rest of this year. They've looked awesome. It's been a hell of a resurgence out there in Western Ohio, and I'm giving them a shout out.
Didn't you say that was your worst nightmare, was a close score?
No. I hate the outcome of the game. Don't get me wrong. I said, I want one of two things to happen. I want Bowling Green to win because, wow, what a win that would be. An SEC team on the road, a ranked SEC team on the road, that'd be a great win. Or I wanted Texas A&M to beat the living shit out of them, only because then it's like, all right, Texas A&M did what they were supposed to do. They probably would have climbed even a little bit higher in the rankings, and you wouldn't be able to really fault Bowling Green for that. What I didn't want was a close loss, because now it's like, oh shit, does Texas A&M kind of suck? Because they barely beat Bowling Green at home, and yet Bowling Green still takes a loss. Like, they still lost. So it's like the worst of both worlds. Now I'm questioning the team that maybe could contend for a playoff spot if they play their schedule right. I'm questioning them, and my other team that I wanted to have the Cinderella story lost. So it was no good. It was no good all around.
The Penn State game probably made you feel better, though, right?
What's that?
The Penn State game probably made you feel better, though, right?
What do you mean?
Just like in regards to A&M, like the fact that Bowling Green like really took it to Penn State as well. It's like, okay, maybe that's just a good team.
I do. I do think they're a good team. And I think at some point over the next couple of weeks, Bowling Green is going to get ranked. But it's still
the playoff.
I think from the Bowling Green perspective, it's like, all right, that's cool. You went to those two teams and you kept it close and whatever. But from my Texas A&M perspective, and as I'm looking at all the people I follow and stuff on Texas A&M, they're like, holy crap, they looked like shit. And I can't believe they let this. Most people think Bowling Green's in Kentucky. They don't even know where it is. And they're like, I can't believe they let them stick around. It was not my favorite outcome. But I feel good about Bowling Green. I feel good about how they're going to end their year. I just didn't like it for either team. It wasn't great. But shout out to Bowling Green nonetheless. All right, boys, we've been here for 2 hours. Let's get out of here. We survived a tornado warning over here on the west side. Thank you guys for getting me through that. Last order of business, just our thank yous. First of all, big thank you to Steve Phillips, former Mets GM and current MLB analyst for the MLB Network. Shout out to Steve for coming on and talking Guardians and playoffs and all the rest with us earlier in the show. Shout out to our sponsor of our beer of the week, the Cleveland Tint Company. Get over and check out the Cleveland Tint Company for all your window tinting needs. Make sure you check them out, clevelandtintcompany.com, clevelandtintco.com. And lastly, you guys were great in the comments. They were just top to bottom, nonstop, all day long throughout the show. So shout out to all of you that joined us live. Shout out to you that are going to join us later, whether it's on Apple or Spotify as far as a podcast, or whether you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch. Just make sure you hit that follow button. Get over to our page and hit follow at the Garage Beers everywhere. And make sure also our last thank you goes out to the OBR. Make sure you're subscribed and tuned in to everything OBR related. The OBR streaming network is going 5 days a week and then on Sundays. So make sure you're tuned in to everything OBR. That's going to do it for us for episode 231 of the Garage Beers podcast. For Garage Beers, Chad Meyer over there on the porch on the east side of Cleveland. For Garage Beers, Joey Whalen down in Nashville, Tennessee. I am Michael Keefe. Find me online at Garage Beers Mike. Until next week for episode 232. Jeez, oh Pete, I forgot where we were. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had a great time, and we'll talk to you then. Cheers, everybody.